Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ed, and if you're new, take a moment to like and subscribe. I look at technology from an organizational and productivity perspective. In this video, we're revisiting the Go 10.3 Gen 2 Lumi. This is one of two successors to the first generation Go 10.3 from Onyx Books, and I have been using it intensively for 1 week at work. While the device was kindly sent to me by Books, they do not have any editorial control, and there is no agreement about what I will and will not say about the device. First and foremost, I want to say that this is an exceptional device and arguably one of the best values on the e-ink market today. If you're looking for a reasonably priced entry tablet and need a front light, the Lumi, no pun intended, shines in that regard. It comes with all of the power you expect from Books, Google Play, Android 15. However, there are some compromises, and I will walk you through my overall thoughts after using the device for one of the busiest note-taking weeks in well over a month. So let's talk about what I liked first. The build of the device is very good. It is solid, has beautiful aesthetics, and a quality case that makes it really feel like it's a more premium notepad. The simulated suede material on the outside of the case is great. Additionally, although the InkSense Plus pen is an active capacitive stylus, it is probably one of the best implementations I have ever seen. We will revisit this in the challenges list later as well. However, it's a well-weighted stylus, and the nib combined with the screen gives a very satisfying feel. Note-taking is easy, and I really found myself liking the vertical scroll notes on this device. This is a great addition with the 4.2 firmware. Having page breaks allows this to work across devices and really does make it a lot more comfortable to write. You can avoid the dreaded writing on the bottom of the device. Writing latency is better than a lot of devices and almost imperceptible except when compared to EMR. Additionally, stroke accuracy is very good. Second, in my experience, only to EMR, including other active pens on Books devices, such as the Tab XC. My handwriting was clear and legible, even if not as clean and crisp as on EMR devices. The 4.2 firmware mentioned for the scrolling notes has a lot to like in it. Since it is only released on the Go 10.3 Gen 2 and the Note Air 5C, I feel it's worth mentioning that where Books is headed is promising. In addition, adding the notes I mentioned earlier in the handwritten notes and not as a separate note type is brilliant. This device has been really fun to work with over this last week to 10 days. And, I wanted to make sure that I really put it through its paces. So I didn't just take a few notes here and there. I used it as my daily driver, with the exception of writing a couple of notes as a comparison for the Gen 1 versus this one. What I want to talk about here is, like I said, I put this through its paces. So I had a virtual conference Monday and Tuesday. I had my regular meetings, probably the heaviest meeting week I've had in a while. So it really hurt me to not use the Supernote because that's where I store a lot of my information. So for me, it was actually taking one of my heaviest workload weeks and putting it into this device. And then not only did I have all of those meetings and that virtual conference, but then I had a conference today, which as of this recording was an all day conference. So I took notes all day long. So you'll see some of these are 7 pages, some of them are 4 pages, some of them are 6 pages. And it was just note after note after note. Now, one thing I can say, which I didn't really encounter, was the crashing issue. I had it once. I had it crash on me one time. Basically, the touch on the device quit working, and I had to hard reset twice to make it work again. Had that happen once, I never had any of the other issues. I know that other people did, and I know that Books, as of this recording, released a 4.2 push update to fix that, at least from what I'm hearing so far. So we'll put that out there. But one thing I do want to talk about, I think is really important. We'll go in here and we'll look at my writing, and you can see here, I think the writing is pretty good. I tend to like the calligraphy pen, and I think that this is pretty close to my actual writing. You'll notice here that there are some issues with eyes. If I ever tried to do just a quick colon, you can see, you can almost not see that colon. It's there, but it's very, very light. And so I'm not used to having that. But otherwise, I think it worked really well. It captured everything. One thing I found that I really liked, that I quite frankly didn't expect to like as much, or wasn't that I didn't expect to like it. It was just something I didn't realize I would appreciate as much, is the vertical scroll. It's not always accurate immediately. You saw I had to do it twice there to get it to activate. But once it does activate, it works really well. So when I was taking notes today, I was just mindful of the page breaks, and then I would just slide up, give myself a little bit of room to write more, and then I would go all the way through. So it really worked well, and it was very easy to use. One thing I'm missing here is headings. So I know I'm going to have to go back through all of these notes, and I'm going to have to manually add the outline marker and add in all of the different components of that. The nice thing about that, if I have time to do all of that, is that I can add both a heading and a subheading. So here I could add the title, which I've already tagged, and it's a little hard to read, but I got the gist of what it is. And then I could add sub outlines to all of the other components. So that way, when I merged all of this at some point, it would be in one document and have all of those headings. And the cool feature about books is when you export that, it then gets exported as table of contents with the PDF. Supernote doesn't provide that functionality, and I think that's really awesome. What's harder is the fact that I have to go through that manual process to do that versus what I have on the Supernote, which is a quick lasso, select heading, and you're done. It's that quick. And then when I merge everything, yes, it doesn't go out with a PDF, but I don't tend to take them off as PDFs the same way because I access them through the app and then it's all navigable. So that's just one thing that I wanted to call out, though, as a feature I really enjoyed, which was this scrolling feature. Much better than I thought it would be, much cooler than I thought it would be. And it worked really well. Like I said, you can really see where it misses some things. Like if you look at peer here, it didn't quite get my R. So it's not as good as Wacom, but at the same time, it's extremely accurate for an active pen. It's hands down the best active pen I've ever used. And I've used a lot of them on different devices, not any of the newest ones, but this one does an excellent job from that standpoint. The improvements to the Calendar Memo app are welcome and overdue, as are the Template Hub and the ability to share e-ink-wise settings. A lot of people are saying that, maybe this is now the best calendar app on e-ink, and I would agree that it's got the potential to be because of the fact that it all depends on your use case. It depends on what you're trying to do. Some of the features are flat out brilliant. When I go to edit, it's going to pop up, and I'll show you if I was to create a new event. I've got this attachment button or this insert command, and the insert is awesome because you can do images, you can do notes, and you can do books. So books, EPUBs, PDFs. You can attach that to a meeting, even one that comes from your Google Calendar, which I did yesterday. But of course, those notes I don't want to show because they contain some names. These are conference notes, so I'm not as worried. But I can go in and I can add any of those notes to what I'm working on. And that's a very powerful feature. Nobody does it that way. Even Supernote's calendar doesn't do that at all, but their to-dos will show you the notebook if you create it from the notebook, but it won't do any of this. You can't attach something after the fact. So as a feature, it's absolutely phenomenal, the promise this has and how it should work. So I'm super excited about it. And then of course you've got to-dos. You can see all of the notes you took. You can see all these different notes I took today. And then if I had any reads, they'd all be there. This has the potential as of this recording to be the most powerful calendar app on e-ink. And for the right person who has one calendar, has nothing else synced to it, it can be. Finally, the overall lightness of the device was great. You will notice I didn't talk much about the front light. That is because I don't tend to use it on devices this size, and I see it as an automatic pro for anyone who wants that option. Okay, so I told you what I like about the device and that I used it all week. However, no device is perfect, and there are some compromises and challenges that come with this device, many of which are issues with the BOOX devices globally. I'll do my best to limit my comments to this particular device, although there may be some crossover. The first thing for me is the stylus. You may be saying, wait a minute, you just said the stylus was good and you loved the writing on the device. You would be correct. I did say that for short periods of time. However, I'm a note taker, and over the course of this 7-day period, I probably took 60 to 70 pages of handwritten notes. During that time, my hand would fatigue and cramp, which does not tend to happen with my EMR pens, even the BOOX standard pens. The pen is weighted well, it looks good, but it's very slick, which caused me to constantly have to adjust my grip. I have to admit that this was something I didn't notice during the unboxing because in only writing for a little while, I just didn't feel it. Next, the writing isn't necessarily a challenge, but it is a compromise. The InkSense Plus nib developed a wobble after extensive use. I think we all get a good sense of our own handwriting, and every use case is unique. While it is a subjective thing, I'm fine with my handwriting on the device, but not really happy with it. There are some false starts in waiting for the pen to sometimes kick in, and something about the way my writing looks is just a little bit off. Part of this could be due to the fatigue and the nib wobble mentioned earlier. So I want to be fair to the device. However, if it is a hardware issue, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of quality active stylus options, since they are mainly a marriage between software and hardware in both the device and the stylus itself. One thing that bothered me a lot today that I hadn't noticed as much earlier in the week is the nib. And, I'm not going to be able to capture this quite on camera, but it's wiggly. So and I double checked to make sure it was seated right. But when I went to push down and start writing, I could feel the nib move. And that was just really annoying, for lack of a better term. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker by any stretch, but it got annoying. And I felt like, man, am I on the right side of the nib? Is it wearing weird? What's going on? And that's when I did this and I realized that it's actually wobbly and it doesn't have any gives, doesn't depress like some style I do. The other thing, and this may just be me, but I've also heard my friend David over at Tablet Tech talk about it. I think the big issue with this as well is it's so slick. So it's very hard to get a good grip on this pen. So I found that while I was writing, my hand kept sliding unless I held really, really firm. And so I was getting a lot of fatigue. By the time I stopped writing today, my hand hurt. And I take a lot of notes, and I don't get that fatigue with the original BOOX pen, and it also has that textured outside. I don't get that fatigue with my hard to metal pens. I don't get that fatigue with any of the other styli I use. So for me, that makes me wonder for myself whether I could keep this as my primary all the time, because it was causing me some pain all the way through the week. And primarily because it's a slightly heavier than the other pens. And I don't even know if it's so much the weight or the fact that I'm having to grip it so much tighter to be able to get that good quality feel. And I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to share my raw, honest impressions with you about what I think this is good for and who I think it would be for. So again, a lot of it's going to depend on you. This was Monday when I did the capstone event for an AI workshop at work, and I took a lot of notes here. So I have a lot of different notes, a lot of different things going on. What I tried to do here was I would do one note that was on this device and one note that was on the Go 10.3. And I also, both days, tried to switch up the pen type. I matched the pens each day. So if it was calligraphy pen on one, it was calligraphy pen on the other. If it was the regular pen, then I made it that, and I made them both the same size. And you will notice some differences. You'll see here, this note was actually done on this device, and it looks pretty good. Other than the writing experience, the writing feel is excellent. Other than this latest edition of the nib wobble. Other than that, it's got just the right amount of resistance. It's got a really solid feel to it. The accuracy is pretty good. There is a little bit of latency, but it's unless you're looking for it and you're just so used to it being instant, you're not going to notice it. If this is your first device, I don't think you would have any comparison point. But you can see there are some things when I write where it blends here and there. But overall, pretty good performance. If you go out and go into one where I took it on the Go 10.3 Gen 1, personally, I think this looks better. Now, that could be because my eyes, the dots above them, come through better. There's more accuracy. I can see a lot of that finer detail, but it's not easy to spot. I'm not making a mountain out of a molehill here. What I am doing is saying that writing feel, excellent. Accuracy, very good. Latency, very good, but not to the level of EMR. However, the biggest thing for me is the fatigue, the writing fatigue, the hand fatigue that I get when working on this device. And to the point of many reviewers, and we've all said this is your pen. Now, you may be able to get one that works as well or decently well on the secondary market, but nothing is going to have a custom driver that fits this tablet like this pen. So you're really rolling the dice if you're going to try to do a custom pen or a custom mod. And the problem there is it's not interchangeable. So I have to know that I have this pen on me all the time. I think that the writing clarity and precision on the 10.3 Gen 1 is just better. Personal preference in a lot of ways, but also I am heavily using this. And when you are using it heavily, uh, you get to know what you want it to look like, and you know your own handwriting. So that's what lets me know when there's a difference. And I am used to the way I write. I'm used to the way I do things. And I think that's why it's very important to take your time and take a look at this. Finally, we circle back to the 4.2 software, which, like the Stylus, actually fits in both camps. I mentioned how much I like the direction Books is headed. However, I also feel the beta release of the software was launched too early. There's no 12-hour calendar support, and the Google integration, at least, which is my primary use case, is not able to filter out shared calendars. This resulted in over 7 pages of events that had nothing to do with my primary calendar, which made the calendar unusable for me. This is a shame because being able to add notes, books, documents as attachments to the calendar events is brilliant. If this was still in beta, I could overlook some of the bugs, but this was just rushed out very quickly. It's not quite there yet, at least for my use case. And this is where you get to kind of the UI confusion. I can get to my calendar memo on others by just swiping and then I'm in the calendar. Here, I have to go to this apps button. And then once I configure everything, I would have to click on calendar memo. So I don't have really a quick access way to do this. Now, here's where my frustration lies. I have between all of the calendars that are shared with me at work, something like 15 to 17 calendars. I don't see those on a daily basis. I can activate one, toggle it on and off, but I have 3 calendars on a regular basis that I have active and showing on my Google Calendar for work. And that's my work calendar, the holidays calendar, and my family calendar that I pull in. However, if you look here, you are going to see so many events here. And right now, you're not even seeing, there's some of it. You can see some of my all-day events, and you can see some of my other events, but not all of them. Not everything is coming through from my main calendar, and all of this extraneous stuff that I don't need, in this case, 5 pages worth of events that aren't mine and that aren't visible when I look at this on my phone or look at this on my computer. That is a major downside to what this does and what it promises. And I'm really looking forward to when they fix it. I think it may be a Google Workspace issue, but until they fix it, it's going to be very hard to use this on a daily basis in any concerted way, even though if I go into this event, I can do so many more cool things, and I'm hoping that they get to where this is even better. And actually, this won't even let me edit it now. That's interesting. I've not had that happen before. Let's see if this one will. Nope, it's graying out. Okay, so on this video, you're seeing a strange thing. It's not even letting me edit. But if you have a workspace account, this could also be so frustrating because I want it to do the things it promises to do, and it just doesn't. And then the last thing that's a little bit frustrating on this is it is on the 24-hour clock, and they don't have a 12-hour clock option. And I know Books is working on all of this. But one thing I want to be very clear about, this is not a beta software. I give a lot of credit and leeway and support for beta releases, but they push this just too fast. It's not ready. If it can't support work accounts, if it can't either let you filter on the computer side or on device like WeWoods does to filter out the noise, 5 pages of events is no good to me. It makes this pretty much useless. I can't see the snapshot of my day without having to scroll all the way through. And that's just not useful. On Supernote, I can see it right away. On WeWoods, I can see it right away. And yes, Supernote only pulls my primary, but I know that going in. I know I'm not going to see my family events. I'm only going to see work events. And I'm okay with that as a compromise right now. This is kind of the worst of both worlds when it comes to the viewing experience. Again, I know they're working on it, but I really wish they'd have left it in beta longer until they fixed the 12-hour clock. And even if they didn't fix the 12-hour clock yet, because I know that can be an integration, but if they'd have fixed just cutting out the noise, if you can't get it right, just pull my primary and leave everything else out. And then once you have the ability to sort, then go ahead and push those other calendars through. So for what it's worth, I think it's absolutely fabulous. If you want to see a really good walkthrough of how to create an event and things like that, my good friend Aaron Reed at 2530 Media, he did that and showed that really well. I do think that they could do some tweaking there, but I think they've done an excellent job. The hardest part of this is getting that calendar integration down, especially for those of us who need to use this as a work product for that type of workflow. Again, I use it mostly for reference, but I do like to be able to go in and see that reference cleanly and just really, really sharp. Okay. So we've talked about the things I really like about the device and the things that are concerning. The lists are both fairly comprehensive, and I feel it's important to be transparent about my individual use case. I take a lot of notes, and this device became difficult to do that on because of the stylus and fatigue I was getting. While I know that you could easily put a grip on the stylus or do some modification, I like to use these devices as they were intended and with their original equipment to get a feel for the overall design. With that in mind, the writing feel is excellent until the wobble hit, but the experience suffers due to the slippery nature of the stylus and having to constantly reorient your grip. All of that being said, however, This device overall is excellent, and it's an excellent value if you are not taking extensive notes or not used to the visual appearance of writing with an EMR stylus. I don't think you would have any trouble with the device whatsoever. With the upgrade to Android 15 and having a front light available, this might be the perfect device for many users. You know it will be supported for a long time. The pen is not a deal breaker. However, if you want the best writing experience and do not need a front light, you might want to stick with the Go 10.3 Gen 1. After all, it will receive the same firmware update, and I'm really excited to see where BOOX goes and takes this. If you need a front light and the Go 10.3 Gen 1 is sitting in a drawer or on a shelf due to that fact, I would definitely recommend this device. However, if you do not need a front light, this device does not really offer much over the original 10.3. And there are other EMR options in this size. Well, that's it for me in this video. Thank you for staying until the end. I would really like to know what you think. Please share down in the comments. If you found it useful, consider liking, subscribing, becoming a member, or buying me a digital book using the QR code in the corner. Until next time, keep on moving forward, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.